Hello. And my question today is, why do we like this?
Because you know how I figured it out? What's 1 times 1?
What's 1 times 1?
One times 1 is 1.
To multiply means to do what?
To multiply.
To make more, right?
Yes.
Increase in number,
Yes.
multiply.
Yes.
How can 1 times 1 equaling 1 be part of the multiplication table? It fails to satisfy the term multiply. It doesn't multiply. Does it? What's an action times an action?
You got some weed.
No, I'm asking you. Honestly,
Somebody should have multiplied an ass whooping for Terrence Howard.
Reason. I want you to reason.
Somebody should have multiplied that mute
What's an action times
button.
an action? A reaction. Right?
Okay.
Have you ever seen an action times an action without a reaction? Have you? No. Because equanimity is the currency of the universe. There's always an action times an action having a reaction. So how can 1 times 1 equal 1? How can A times B just be A and not B? What happened to conservation?
Terrence, these are late night conversations.
These are
bro.
These
Yeah,
are.
they are.
This is the beginning of our understanding. It should fit. What kind of calculator you got? What kind of phone you got?
The iPhone?
Okay, go to your calculator.
Whatever
No,
the new
don't do that.
No, go to your
Okay.
calculator. Go to your calculator.
All right. Go to calculator.
Go to your calculator.
Yeah,
No,
I got
Terrence,
you.
I'm not going to
You
my
want iPhone?
calculator.
do
That's what
it.
they should have said. No, I'm not going to my calculator.
I want to do the same thing to start with. Turn it to the side.
Okay.
All right, now I want you to both hit the number 2. Did the whole calculator show up?
Hit number what?
Hit the number 2.
Number
2.
2.
Go to the square root. It is the second column from the left, 3rd row. It'll have that squiggly
Yeah.
thing.
All right.
You get
1.4.
1.414213562373095.
Holy
now
crap.
I want you two to do 2 separate things now. 2 separate things. I want you to multiply it by 2, hit times 2, equal, don't you do it.
Okay.
And I want you to hit x to the 3rd. X to the 3rd, it's going to be the
Times
3rd.
3?
No, x to the 3rd.
Oh, X. Oh, okay. I see it.
X to the 3rd.
Yeah, I got you. All right. 1.1.
No. You didn't hit x to the 3rd.
Yes, I did.
If you hit x to the 3rd.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. You're right.
So
I
go
did.
back
You're
to
right.
eight.
Okay,
It's
so
crazy.
now-
Here's where you are.
Yeah, I'm
2,
good.
Go to
2
square root
square root.
and hit x to the 3rd.
All right. 2.82.
2.828, 4271, 2174, 6190. The same value you got
Yeah.
Can't multiply
by
1 times
multiplying it by 2.
Yeah.
And he just cubed it. Divide it by 2 again. Both of y'all. Divide by 2.
it by 2.
No, divide by 2. Hit equal. Now, cube it again. Hit x to the 3rd.
Yeah.
You see that loop?
Yeah.
That's saying x cubed is equal to 2x, which is equal to x plus x. That's an unnatural equation. That's a mathematical fallacy.
Right.
And that's the beginning of your math. That's how I invented tangential flight, because your math, someone programmed that lie in there.
Solid's
and
face.
lied to you and everyone. And all your fundamentals are off.
Oh, Lord.
Tangential
I
flight.
just tangential. You gotta say tangential flight.
Tangential, man.
I feel like other people would have
Listen.
heard to memorize those super long numbers and be like, he's smart. He is smart.
No, that's a big part of it too. Like that's why he memorized it. Like, look, we were talking about listen, we talk about all the time dictionaries being what is it called?
Descriptive.
Descriptive and not prescriptive. And he used a descriptive definition of multiplication that is based upon our society, because when we say, oh, you're multiplying, huh?
Are you really you're rebuttaling this? Like,
I'm rebuttaling.
serious?
I'm retorting.
Okay,
I'm retorting.
that's what we're doing. We're just
I'm
going to rebut.
retorting, nigga. I'm
No, you good.
retorting.
You good?
I'm
No,
retorting.
go ahead.
Retorting, not rebutting.
Listen.
Yeah.
Yes, both. Anyway, but listen, like he used a descriptive definition of multiply, because in our society, when we say, oh yeah, them niggas over there is multiplying, or y'all just in the house multiplying, we mean y'all making babies, y'all making more people, y'all are making more. The niggas is getting more people on their side. That's what we mean. But to multiply it just means to to talk about how many times you have something. So like 1 times 1 equaling 3 doesn't make any sense because we're talking in math is based within units. A lot of math is based within units. And so when you have something 1 time and there's 1 unit, then the number of units is like the number at that point, the number of times. Because if you have like we talked about, if I have this is my makeup settler. I have this 1 time, then this times 1 is 1 because this is only 1. If I have this 2 times, then this times 2 is 2 of these. If I have this 3 times, etc., etc., etc. In math, that is what we mean by multiplication. How many times you have something. If you look up, I actually looked up to make sure I was right. If you look up multiply, it means to obtain from a number another that contains the first number a specified number of times. So what that means is that you look at the individual thing, the individual unit, and how many times you have that unit is what you multiply that unit by. This came in a 2-pack and I bought 2 of these 2-packs, then I would have 2 units 2 times, making 4 units. So 2 times 2 is 4. That's how multiplication in math works. So 1 times 1 equals 3 just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it was what
All right.
he said.
Since we're down this rabbit hole, I'm gonna just do the algebra part. And so if 2 equals x squared, right? 2 equals x squared. The square root of x squared is x. And so if you cube that, that's x to the third. That's what he got. That's x to the third. And if 2 equals x squared, if you multiply it by 2, that's x times x squared, which is x to the third. So he's just doing what we call a tautology, which is x to the third equals x to the third. And he's like, that's an unnatural equation. But I don't even know why what the response should be is, why are you here? Like, why are you on a podcast talking to us fools? Like, even if you were right and you did this revolutionary shit, why ain't you at MIT or something going like, yo, y'all don't know what you talking about. 1 times 1 is 3. So they can laugh you out the building. Why aren't you doing that?
And I do want to say an unnatural equation sounds so strange to me because math is a social construct and it's unnatural in general. Like we made it up. Like math is not naturally occurring in nature. Like if you go outside right now, a tree is not like, I have 1 unit of leaf. And if I times this unit of leaf, like trees are not doing that, bro. Like it's so weird to me. It's so weird.
He said it was so odd. He said, yeah, multiply means to make more of. So how do you, so he's like, how do you still just have 1 of? Like 1 of it.
Solid space. Now say that again. Say that again one more time.
It was odd. I was just saying it's so odd because he said multiply means more of. So if 1 times 1 is 1, how come you still have 1? How come you don't have more of it? It's like, oh my gosh, this is so sad. So sad.
Insane.
So that's a palate cleanser for me to say that, welcome again to another episode of the End of a Species podcast. And we're going to talk about some fun stuff on today's episode. And, it's something that I wonder about. We all talk about it. It's like, why is there a rise in like this pseudo?
I think Jeff is so on to something that the government doesn't want him to say.
No, actually, literally this. The CIA is watching.
They don't want cut it out. They don't want me talking about this, but I'm gonna talk about it anyway. But for real, like, why is there a rise in pseudo intellectualism? That's the question, right? Why is it that people go to the Joe Rogan show and the Joe Rogan experience and say, hey, I found the secret that nobody else knows. And that's the thing that they have, right? But I'm Jeff, from End of a Species. I'm here with Super Solid, Shaun, and Adorna, and I want you guys to talk about stuff because the studio kicked me out. I have to reset the other clip that we're going to talk about. But yeah, 1 × 1 = 3, I guess.
Okay.
I blame Trump.
Obviously.
I don't. I actually don't.
You.
I do not.
Everyone,
I blame
Oh, hold
fascism.
on.
Oh, Jesus.
Well, maybe not hip specifically, but
I blame fascism in general because
Sure,
in
sure.
times of fascism, you're taught not to trust your own eyes. You're taught to, question everything. You're taught to, right, that there's everything you knew was actually a lie without actually being given the foundation to find the truth, without being taught how to find the truth. Instead, just latch on to whatever is the fringe ideology, right?
conveniently.
That's something that I think is very common, right?
What is,
Pizzagate.
let me ask something real quick. What are we I'm gonna do the thing that people do when they want the class to know something. What do we mean when we're talking about fascism, Solid?
The belief, well, we're talking about palingenetic ultranationalism. We're talking
Okay.
about the consolidation of power into the hands of a perceived rightful group,
Mm-hmm.
characterized by the love for a charismatic autocratic leader.
Okay.
Yeah, and done by means of like absolutely dismantling society.
So palingenic as in the kind of backward looking of
palingenetic.
like we used to be in
Palingenetic refers to
power,
like a
we lost-
rebirth.
Yeah. We
Yeah.
used to be in power. We've lost that power, and we need
Yeah.
to get back in power. Kind of
Mhm.
thought process. Okay.
Yeah.
From the
and-
ashes shall rise something.
Yeah, like a phoenix.
literally this.
Picture a
Literally
phoenix.
this.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Is it any wonder
So-
why so much fascist paraphernalia has phoenixes on it?
Because
Is that the plural for phoenix? Phoenixes?
Phoenixes.
Phoenix Eye?
Phoenixi?
No, I think it's Phoenixes.
I think it's just Phoenix. I think it's like fish.
Fish?
Yeah, because you could
That's
just
why
say
you see so many
you could say
phoenix.
fishes, but like most people just say there's a bunch of fish over there, or there's a lot
Yeah.
of fish. Like it's
I went to
both
Greece yesterday.
singular
I
and-
saw hella phoenix.
Says.
Yeah, I would say Phoenixes.
Okay.
I feel like, all right. No, I mean, I guess so. That does make sense.
We're too hung up
That
on
does
it.
make sense.
But do you think it's the rise of accessibility to the accessibility of I don't know, of being able to be seen? So there's so many more people that have the ability to spread information, and so pretty much there's validation everywhere. I should just be able to say anyone can have a TikTok channel, and we see people who are super unintelligent, and then they have like 500,000 followers. So the ability for anyone to have a following, right? And then because they have a following and because they're so seen, then it's just like, well, this person must be smart. They must be saying something valid. I think that perhaps the social media, the rise of social media, and all these other things, podcasts, etc., just make it so that anyone can be smart now. Smarter.
I think it's more of I think the platform comes from the lack of smarts. Because this is a thing I've noticed on TikTok, and the reason why I say this is because of this reason, Adorna. This is a pattern I see on TikTok, as well as I saw it when I was big on Twitter. I saw it on Twitter, Facebook, like anywhere really, any place. Is that it's more appealing to be it's more appealing to know things that other people don't know than it is to just know information. So like if you know something, like if you say something and people don't know that, like if you say things like that are outrageous, and people just don't know it, and you sound super confident saying it, it sounds like it might have some merit, and it sounds like you're super smart because you know something that other people don't know, and that's where the platform comes, and that's where like the thoughts of like just wild and crazy stuff that people believe on different platforms or whatever, that's where these things come from.
Hmm. I have a friend that says if you say anything with confidence, people will believe it.
That's the
Exactly.
thing. I also think that I say this a lot, that we practice as humans. We do a lot of in-group, out-group dynamics. We say, okay, if you're the cool kid, you get to sit at the cool kids table. Everybody else does not, and haha, we point. But there are some of those in-group, out-group dynamics that make sense. Like if you're part of the group that's currently working on how we circumnavigate the globe, and you're doing all the math and you're getting it checked by your peers, and you've done so much study, and or you're into geology, and that's your field, or you're an archaeologist, that's your field. You're doing a whole bunch of stuff to make sure you know what you're talking about, and that in group makes sense. And then somebody else, I mean, you don't necessarily have to be have a degree, but do the work and learn what it is. And then some other people are like, well, I want to be smart too. I can watch 10 YouTube videos, because going to school for 10 years or reading a bunch of books, that's so hard. But I'm just going to watch a whole bunch of YouTube videos, and then I know this thing, and I just took a shortcut. And wouldn't it be great if I did the thing that you see in a Disney movie, and I just revolutionized this industry through a montage, as opposed to like the
That part.
actual, like, hey, stuff in like, I think about, the Avengers Endgame, where Robert Downey Jr., Tony Stark is trying to figure out time travel. It's like, oh, this is impossible to figure out. 10 minutes later, I figured it out. And like that,
Right,
they look
right.
at that and they're like, oh, 1 times 1 is 3, y'all. And that's how I found out about tangential. What?
Tangential
No,
flight
literally
is
this.
ridiculous.
Tangential flight is insanity.
Yeah. I don't know if you all have ever heard me say this, but like, yeah, conspiracy theory gives you the benefit of feeling like the smartest person in the room without the labor and the cost of actually having to do the work to be smart.
Literally this.
Mhm.
Literally
Right.
this.
Yeah.
Literally.
Which why?
Which is why, well, it's the reject, it's the like they need it. Like most of the conspiracy theory, like especially the one that we had just watched with Terrence, he needs to reject actual knowledge. That's why he said someone programmed that lie into your uh calculator,
Later. Yeah.
because the things that you know, the things that they taught you, the education that you would go and have and learn is invalid, and it has to be, because what I'm saying is invalid, but I can't have you combat that with actual knowledge. If you have actual knowledge of something, that needs to be like thrown out altogether. Which actually leads me back to palingenetic ultranationalism, because the entire point of fascism, like you said, Solid, the entire point of fascism is an us over them. And it's regardless of the actual information that is being taught to you and that is being told to you, and that needs to be thrown out, which is why they burn books, which is why they ban certain educational actions, facilities. Teachers can't teach about this, and you can't teach your children about that, or whatever else it may be, because that has to be thrown out in order to put us over them, because it's not, fascism is not made to make sense. It's just made to make certain demographics of people happy.
Right.
and
And
others
then,
sad.
you know what's hilarious to me is in your face, they'll say, you want me to use pronouns? what are you, the thought police? Right? And then it's like, don't you understand that you're being the thought police by refusing to use the pronouns? Like,
No,
you want to
literally.
stop me from using, right? Also, you just said me,
Right.
right? You just,
Right.
You, me, I,
You,
all of
me,
those.
I.
All of those. All
And
of
it's,
those.
hey, I'm going to deconstruct language. What? No, let's just use it. Just say the thing you want to say. You're doing it wrong. I always like, I also think about utility. Like, if 1 times 1 does equal 3, what does that mean? Like, what is that? What are you bringing out into the world outside of a
Well-
thing that you can say while grabbing peanuts at the bar that everybody else has touched? And you're like, hey, did you know 1 times 1 equals 3? You're not really doing anything. Even if you're right, you're not adding, like, there's no utility to that tidbit of information.
I think
Think
the
it's
most
so hard.
I think one of the most dangerous parts about this is that like Terrence Howard is rich and famous. And so like the things that he says and he does can actually hurt people. Like we have people who have done things that have harmed people. And I mean, at that, like what I'm thinking about right now was just billionaires. So I hope it happens again. But we have like Ocean Gate, where you have a guy creating a submersible going into water out of fiberglass, which does not have a good, what's it called, strength. Like it's super strong to impact, but it's not super strong to pressure. I can't remember what it's called. And that's why Ocean Gate imploded almost immediately going down. But he thought he had something because he was like, "No, I know more than the books can possibly teach you." Because I don't even know exactly why they believe that they know more.
I discovered fiberglass.
No, literally.
Why didn't anybody
Um,
think of using that? It's new.
And when people say like, "Hey, fiberglass is not good for this thing," they go, "No, no, 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 no. I know more than you because of some theory that I made up or whatever else." It's the same thing with flat earthers and people saying like, "Oh, the earth is flat because I want it to be flat." And everything that you've taught, like I've debated flat earth a couple of times, and the things that people will do is that they go, the model of physics that you know is wrong. This is and they'll point to something like a whiteboard behind them. This is the model of physics that we actually have. And they'll go into explaining it. And it's all wrong, but it's because they need, like, in order for their point to make sense, they need something in order to make it make sense.
I don't debate flat earthers. You guys have probably heard me say this before that I need one of 2 things.
That's true.
A flat earther needs to give me one of 2 things, not for me to believe in flat earth, but just to get introduced to the conversation. And I always say like a bank account with $1 billion or a copy of their obituary, because it's always one of 2 things that they're saying. They're saying, I know something you don't, and I discovered it, or the reason you don't know it is because there's a conspiracy. In either of those 2 cases, I'll see one of those 2. That's what I want to see. And so that's why I talk about utility, because like if when we do new math, we're not doing new math for fun. We're not just like some people do it, but we do it so that we can figure something else out, right? Like when you look at certain quantum physics concepts and quantum mechanics concepts go into the fact that you can have a hard drive, right? Certain rules that we use in physics are the reason why we can do 1-day shipping on Amazon or some shit like that, right? Like there's a whole bunch of stuff that goes into making the world move. And when somebody discovers something new, it turns into something. And it's not just the thing it turns into is not just like, hey, look how smart Adorna is. It turns into, here's a new thing that makes life easier. It used to take us so long to go across the United States from the East Coast to the West Coast. dysentery and all that. You know, we know the Oregon Trail, but like now we've figured out through like just simple Newtonian physics, light, and now we can do it in a matter of a couple of hours. Do you know what happens when you when you set tiny bursts of gasoline fumes on fire in succession? You can move a car, so you don't need a horse anymore. Hey, that's great. It's not, hey, gasoline isn't really flammable. Pass it on.
Literally this.
It's all an illusion. Pass it on.
Well, like a lot of the things that they say, like I don't debate flat earthers often, especially on flat earth. If I see specifically, if I'm on TikTok or something, I see specifically a flat earth live, I just move past it. But sometimes it does get brought up, and they like the things that they say are absolutely ridiculous. But the reason why I don't know exactly why Terrence Howard is talking about tangential flight, but flat earthers do have like this model of flat earth where they say like going from one area of the earth to the other area of the earth would take too much gas in a plane, and that's why planes stop in this area. If the earth was round, it wouldn't make sense for them to stop in this area and this, that, and the other. And I'm like, no, nigga, you just looked at the cheap flights.
Yeah.
That's a layover, bro.
I think that's a good segue to see. I think that's a good segue to see what one notable flat earther says. And I'm gonna start this by saying I'm an 80s baby, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a big hip hop fan. So this parts of this actually hurt, like physically hurt me to do. I'm just letting you know it like really does. Now, with that said, I will say there are brand Nubian fans. And so this is who we're talking about is a member of Brand Nubian. There are Brand Nubian fans that can't name 5 Brand Nubian songs. But with that said, this is still considered a pioneer in hip hop and a pioneer in the community, and somebody who's contributed to like the cultural conversation for decades. And then this happens. So I'm just gonna play this. We're not gonna play for long because I don't want to get hit with no weird stuff. But also, I can only stomach it for so long. But this is Lord Jamar on the Godfrey podcast talking about flat Earth with a scientist. And yeah.
So who's going to go first? Tell us, Dave, why you are against what he believes. How about that?
Yeah, flat Earth is the dumbest hoax in human history. Jamar just watched some videos by Eric Dubé, who just spews a bunch of bullshit, memorized what he says, and repeats it and pretends to be intelligent. Instead, everything you say is so insanely stupid and can be disproven with like middle school level physics.
Really?
So yeah, we can go ahead and you can rattle off your debate talking points.
Do you have a working model of a ball that has water sticking to the outside of it? Can you show me a working model?
A tennis ball.
Yes. Wet, no. That's not water sticking to a ball. That's saturation of water on the ball. So I want you to show me where water sticks to the outside of a ball as it spins. It doesn't go to the equator of the ball and spin off.
I heard what you said.
Show me a working model.
That's something very stupid.
Show me a working model.
Okay. The reason that things stick to the Earth is because the Earth is extremely massive, so it generates a very large gravitational field. When water falls off of a ball, whatever ball you're talking about, to the Earth, it's because of the large gravitational field exerted by the Earth. So when you're talking about water sticking to a ball, your desired demonstration of gravity fails because gravity exists. Things fall to the ground.
There is density and buoyancy, sir. Gravity is not some magical thing that makes things.
Density is
there is density and buoyancy, sir. All right, so I made fun of and Shaun's dying over here. I made fun of Shaun for rebuttaling the 1 × 1 = 3, But I will say, and look, if you don't know this, if you don't remember this from just high school, look it up. The way we calculate buoyancy, you have to use gravity. So, like, it's part of the equation. The force of gravity is in there. Trust me. And if you don't, that's fine. Look it up. Look up how we calculate buoyancy, and that's what you'll see. So, yes, it's gravity. Like, duh.
He looks so disgusted.
Because he was just saying stuff. There's density and buoyancy and latency and conductivity. Like, shut up.
Yeah.
Stick to the bars, man.
Make some songs.
I mean, I don't. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say there. Obviously, people are upset when people say, just shut up and dribble. But in this case,
I mean, it's us. It's us. Like, it's us. And like, and this is the thing. Shut up and dribble was actually insane because
definitely insane. Yeah,
he was talking about something real. Yeah. He was like, like racism is real, and she was like, "Shut up, nigger." Like, it was insane. It was insane. But this nigga right here, like this nigga right here, he's not saying anything. Like, he's not saying anything that would disprove like the existence of gravity. He's not saying anything that would even question like the existence of gravity. Like, I think it was Jeff at one point in time said, if we found out today that gravity was little monkeys, like tiny little microscopic monkeys pulling us and holding us to the earth, then we just found out some shit that we didn't know before, but it's still fucking gravity. Like, we just call the monkeys gravity. And he didn't say anything to combat that. He didn't say shut up, Solid.
No, because now we can manipulate gravity with bananas. And so that is useful.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. But I'm just saying, like, we just call it gravity in general. And the whole point that they're making, and this is going to sound so bad because now I'm retorting this. Space, it's hard to explain, but I'm gonna do this real fast. Space is supposedly empty, but it's not. It's just full of matter. I think one of the best ways that we can like emulate space is water. And I did this experiment when I was younger, where that if you put something big in the water and you move it, it'll create a current, and that current will drag things along it. And that is at least what I considered more so within like space, within my experiment, the gravitational pull of something, especially when it's moving. I use that to talk about the moon. When in my experiment in school, I use that to talk about the moon and how the moon stays around the earth. It's kind of like a current. What it really is that when things are so heavy, they pull things into them. And whilst they're pulling things into them, sometimes things are just far enough away to not get pulled in and collide with the thing, but to just be around the thing and spin around the thing. Because space is weird. Like, it's full of matter. And so like that gravitational pull actually means something. So when he says, do you have a model of something sticking to a ball? What he means is, do you have a model of water sticking to something round and not falling off of it? And the answer is actually so funny because it's Earth. Like, and it's literally just Earth, like any other planet. Like, we can look at any other planet. We have telescopes. We can see other planets, and we can see lakes on those planets. Like, we've seen it in other places. We're not the only ones with water, nigga. Like, that's not.
It's the thing that's nuts to me is like all of the things that you just said, looking through a telescope and you see Venus, oh shit, that joint is round. So you think ours is the only one that's flat. Like, of all the shit we see, there's billions and trillions of planets that we're looking at, and we got the flat one. That's the thing, right? But then in addition to that, hey, NASA thinks it's round. and they go out into space. And if you don't believe that, well, UPS thinks it's round and they get a shipment from China to here in 2 days. And everybody else thinks it's round and they get to do shit. And you think it's flat and you're still in the same town that you grew up in. Like you haven't moved, but you think the earth is flat. Everybody else is moving around this fucking round earth. And you're like, nah, it's flat because look at the ground underneath me that I haven't moved. It's absolutely bonkers. Like I don't understand it. And the other thing that I don't understand is, well, in a way I do, is why people entertain it. Like Godfrey and Lord Jamar are, according to them, they're friends. And so Solid, if you said to me like, yo, I got this idea I want to put on the pod, I don't think ducks are real. I think they're actually all Muppets. I would be like, I don't think
I think it'd be more fitting because Solid does not believe that pigeons are real. Solid believes that pigeons are government plans.
None of that is true. None of that is true.
It's true.
But regardless,
conspiracy that I believe in.
Yeah, but
I don't believe. The biggest conspiracy is that French doesn't have a 70.
It doesn't.
Hey, that's true.
We'll talk about that later. Right now, I want to get on this pigeons thing that you believe.
But I don't care if he believes it or not. We not doing a show about that. I'm not going to let him come out here and be like, hey, pigeons ain't real. And I got the proof right here. And I'm going to just like put the mic on and be like, yeah, Solid, you my boy. I'm going to put you out here looking all crazy. Nah, because they're going to look at, like right now, if I look at Godfrey, I'm like, but you boys with that, right? You that's your boy, right?
That's your guy.
That's your man.
Show me a model of a bird that eats pizza.
Visibility. It's the excessive visibility where people, because someone will have heard Terrence Howard or heard this guy, and they're actually going to believe it. And knowing that you have the ability to impact all of these other people, like we see people on lives all the time now, like TikTok lives, that have no business having a live, right? But
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, there are going to be people that are in there. There are going to be people that make them feel smart. They have an audience, and then more and more people are going to be like, I have the opportunity to have an audience, and they're just going to be saying these things. And
no, I hear that. I think I don't think you're wrong at all. I just think that it originates in like this idea of knowing something that other people don't know is what makes you smart rather than just knowing information, even if everybody else knows it, making you smart. Because I've seen it happen, especially on TikTok, where people will change the way that they define certain things. Because I mean, definitions are changeable, but they will change the way that they define certain things just to get a gotcha on some people. And I'm just like, don't do that. That's not honest. One. And number two, you're enabling, or at least I believe, you're enabling the people who do the same things just with information, and they can just be like, "Hey, the Earth isn't round; it's flat," and you didn't know that it was flat, so that makes me smarter than you. And that's where I think, I don't know. That's just where I think the platform comes from.
Jeff is going to be mad, but I am going to bring up Socrates.
That's cool. I actually won't be mad because even though I don't really think Socrates existed, whatever's attached to him, like whatever thoughts are attached to him, that's pretty solid.
Okay.
Hey,
so let me. I see what you did there.
It's super solid.
Hey.
So at its core, right? I don't believe intelligence is about how much you know. I think it's about how good you are. Excuse me, sorry. I think it's about how good you are at searching for the truth. Right? And that was the whole thing. It was like Socrates' or I think probably Plato's whole thing was that admitting to yourself how little you know is how you begin the journey to actually becoming smart, right? To actually becoming wise. Do you all think there's some way to encourage people to like, hey, it's actually kind of cool to admit you don't know some shit?
Um,
I don't know. People's ego.
Hey, yo, fam, come on over here and admit your ignorance with me.
Oh, nah.
Okay.
The youth pastor of admitting you're wrong.
Because Jesus is my nigga.
I do think literally this. I do think that. Well, first, and if there is, I think what we need to examine first is the issue, and I think we need to agree on what the issue is, because if you don't know what the issue is, there's no way you're coming up with a solution. There's zero way. And me personally, like I said before, I believe that the issue is that knowledge, at least on these platforms, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, whatever, Blue Sky, has become a thing where if I know something that you don't know, then that makes me smarter than you. And if I know, even if it's ridiculous, I'm still smarter than you, because you'll hear people say, like, I will be debating with someone and they'll say, oh, you only listen to things that you read in books, or you only listen to the things that you read and that you read in school, and who made your schooling? The white man. And who wants you to be held back? The white man. And so of course he gonna tell you that you not getting hired for jobs because you black, because he don't want you to know that you actually not getting hired for jobs because you're not staring at the sun long enough every day. Like, it's the shit that they say that's like super ridiculous. And you're laughing, but I'm so fucking serious. Like, it's the shit that they say that is so ridiculous that needs to disregard the actual information, because knowing something that you don't know is how they determine whether or not they're smart. This is where the thought process of people who say black people are the original indigenous people, or we're originally the Moors, or we're actually the Jews, or whatever else it may be. It's because those things are something that people would not originally think. Like, we already know that we came from slavery. We already know there's receipts in my family history books. And I don't mean receipts like, oh yeah, I knew we were slave. No, there are sales receipts of my family members in Virginia and Pennsylvania, and saying this nigga is worth this much money and I'm gonna pay this much money because this nigga puts out this much profit. Like, actual receipts in my family history that will show me that I was enslaved and I was brought over here at around a certain time in the 1700s, and they will say, no, that's not true. That's falsified by a white man, and they believe it because it's something new.
So if it's just the origin of like, why is it that people think that they're smart when they're not, or that they have this information when it doesn't make any sense? I mean, I kind of think that everyone at some point thinks that they. I mean, are there? I mean, I guess there are people that just think they're not smart, but I think that most people think that they have some sort of information that other people at least don't know. Because it's not just about the information itself; it's about how they relay the information, right? It's about whether or not how convincing they are. So I think that there are a lot of people who, even if they realize they don't necessarily have information that other people don't know, or don't think that that's the only thing that makes them smart. So I think that there are tons of people who just think that they're smart. And there isn't, it's just a way to get a leg up on other people. So we always talk about, we always talk about how prior to the existence of race, like the categorization of the races, that there were other things that people were enslaved on, like religion, if you're a pagan, or infidel, land, or fighting over land. And this is just another thing for information. And the ability to have people follow you, how convincing you are, all these things are just another way to have a leg up on other people. And so I feel like most people think that they have something to offer that gives them a leg up. And for a lot of people, that's information.
No,
It doesn't.
absolutely. I don't think to be as clear as I can. I'm sorry, Jeff. To be as
No,
clear
you're
as I
good.
can, I think like today's age, I'm gonna sound old when I say this. I think the kids today tend to be, and it's more so adults than anything, honestly. But I think that is what the definition of intelligence they believe the definition of intelligence now is. Like, you are smart when you know something that other people don't know, and you are smart like when you're contrarian. We were talking about being a little bit about being contrarian a little earlier. When you're contrarian, and that you being like you taking like the counterculture, what they would call it, viewpoint towards something, and throwing out like the information that you learned in school or college or read in a book or whatever else, and it's information that a person doesn't know, even if it's ridiculous, like 1 times 1 equals 3, and has no backing to it whatsoever. They look at that and they go, I'm intelligent because I know how to do the contrarian thing. And that's what intelligence is, being contrarian, is
But
what I believe.
I agree with that, but I don't think it's just limited to like the gotchas we see on social media. People are out in the street, like out in the wild in real life, having these conversations.
Absolutely.
Right? It's something that you can see mirrored in the conversations that people have around politics, where they're like, well, this thing is happening. And they're not just saying it like in some debate format. They're just saying it at Walmart, like talking to each other. Can you believe that they did this and the unemployment is this? And it's all stuff that you got one of these things in your hand and you can look it up, but no, none of that.
Like, you know,
we're just going to say the thing.
Literally this. You know how many people would ask me at bars or at like just outing events? They'd be like, who do you like? It was before this last election. Like, who do you think won the election? And I'm like, there's numbers, bro. Like, there's numbers. And they really think that they are like saying some next level shit because they're like, no. Biden didn't win. He's not the president. Trump's the president. He actually won. And they really think that contrarian view is something that makes them intelligent. Or in the wild, like in real life.
The DOD facility.
I'm not joking. I'm not joking here.
I had a conversation the other day with a dude. I'm not going to call it a debate because I specifically told the man, like, I'm not here to debate you. But he made the assertion that when inflation went up in 2021, 2022, the reason it went up was because there were vaccine mandates. And when you send people home, right, because they don't want to take the jab, and there's a mandate, and so they get fired, that drives up inflation. And without going too far into all the stuff, like the only thing I said to him was like, what math did you do to get to the number that the inflation went up? And this man said to me, what do you mean math? And I thanked him. Like I found myself in that moment being like really grateful for the answer, because I said, that is an honest answer. It wasn't like you said, yo, I have some calculations in a notebook over there and I'm not going to show them to you. You actually said, I have no fucking clue what math is right now. What does math have to do with these numbers I'm giving you? Like, that's what his thought was. And I'm like, well, thank you. That's the perfect answer. Because now I know I don't have to like engage with you at all on this level. I can go Tom and Jerry level and just go, hey, which one of us is going to hit which of us with a hammer, and who's going to paint the door on the side of the mountain? Who's going to run into it? That's where we're at. We're like, what do you mean math for like one of the most complex economic principles that can exist? What drives prices? To me, it's like you're saying, what do you mean electricity? When I'm like, well, I need to light my house at night. Like, what do you mean electricity? I don't know what that's about. That's what you're saying to me. And so you're not a serious person. That's cool. You're up here like cosplaying an intellectual. That's awesome. I love that for you. But I'm not gonna engage with, like, debate you.
But that's why I said, and I know I'm not explaining it well, but that's why I said I
think
feel
you're
like it's
explaining
the
it fine.
accessibility. Oh, thank you. The accessibility and visibility. Because as soon as you said what the person thought, I was like, oh, and then I realized I did not hear that on your live. I actually just heard that last night, that same person, because it was the same argument on it was Chris, Parker, and Dean did a combined live.
Mm-hmm.
And that person was on that, and I heard the argument on that one. And I feel like without the visibility, right, to kind of feed whatever it is his thought is, if he just spoken to you and you'd squash it and it was like, oh, that's ridiculous, and explained why, that would have been the end of that. He would have probably thought this was a silly thought, right? But the fact that he has the ability to go on a million other lives, have people in comment sections say, you know what, that makes sense. That's true. Right, and he has the ability to keep voicing it, etc. Makes it validates it. Makes
I think that, yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah,
I think you're 100%, 100%. I don't think you're, like I said, I don't think you're wrong. I'm talking about what I believe is the original reason they say the thing. I absolutely think you're 100% correct. Is that when they get that validation, like on some sort of platform, then they are just like, oh yeah. Now let me be more contrarian, or let me double down on my contrarianism. No, absolutely. But I will say, I do think that there's a difference between black contrarianism and white contrarianism. Like, I think that, like, these things kind of stem a little bit from the same place, but there's the reason why more black people would believe, like, black people who believe that the moon landing was fake is different than what white people believe about the moon landing being fake. And what I think it is that most black people, we've been lied to our entire lives about everything. We go outside, we're getting lied to about what is happening in our own neighborhoods. We're getting lied to about what's happening with the water in our households. Like, I make the joke all the time on TikTok that, like, I grew up in DC. I make the joke all the time on TikTok, was like, I had lead in my drinking water when I was growing up, so I might not be all the way there. That's a real thing. I actually had lead in my drinking water. That's not a joke. Like, that was a real thing. My mother did not, like, after a while, my mother did not let me, she still doesn't to this day, if I'm with her, does not let me drink from water fountains because public water systems had lead in the drinking water. Like, that was a thing. We drank from Brita filters. Like, it was a thing. And so we were lied to about the water we drink. So a black person being like, did we actually go to the moon? I feel like isn't as far-fetched. Or a black person saying, is the earth actually flat? Isn't as far-fetched. The issue that I have with it is that black people tend to think about like our oppression as something that can be contrarian as well. Because it doesn't stop at, is the moon landing real or is the earth flat? It is, are we actually descendants of slaves? Or are we actually indigenous people? Did we actually come from Africa? Or is my lineage X, Y, and Z? And I know one of the bigger reasons as to why, especially Black Americans, Akatas, like I like to call us, American descendants of slaves, no relation to adults, them niggas is bitches, fuck them niggas. The reason why they believe, they're so quick to believe different things is because our history has been erased. Mm-hmm. Like, in my family history, the receipts that I tell y'all about my family history of, like, yeah, we're selling this person to this farm and this, that, and the other. Like, in my family history, there is nothing. Oh shit. There is nothing before that. Mm-hmm. Zero things before that. Not what ship we came off of, not what country we came out of, not who captured us in whatever country. There is nothing before that. And so for black people to be like, actually, since there's nothing before this receipt of me being sold, what I actually think was that it's lost information. And I actually came from Mississippi because I'm Egyptian and Mississippi is in Egypt. Or they say, actually, what happened was I didn't come from West Africa. I came from Israel because I'm the original Jewish people. And there's nothing before that to combat that. So they just say it because it's at this point, nobody knows it. And so now they can get that platform and they can be contrarian that way. And it contributes to them, like especially Black Hebrew Israelite or a lot of the times Moorish people, it can contribute to their hatred of who they believe pushed forward the transatlantic slave trade, which was Jewish people.
Yeah.
The thing, I was just going to say, the thing to keep in mind is that when you have information and you're lied to, like the lead in the water, the way you find that out is by going through the process. You don't just say there's lead in the water, you go and find the lead, right? The way you find out, hey, what tribe was my family taken from? It's difficult and in some cases damn near impossible. But there's work that you do to go get that information. You don't just fill it in, right? So in a lot of cases, people want to get this information, and when it's inaccessible to them, either because it's actually inaccessible or because they don't have the ability to go through the process of getting it, then they just play make believe, and that's where you get like 1 × 1 = 3, right?
Exactly this. And this is why I believe like Black conspiracy theories tend to stem, like the origins of them tend to be essentially the same as like white supremacist talking points, but it's not just fed to us by like white supremacists. It's not just like, oh, Jewish people own Hollywood and they want Black people to look bad and they like funded the slave trade or whatever. It's Black people knowing like bits of information that everyone else does know. We know that our history was erased. We know that like we were slaves and we came through the transatlantic slave trade, all of this other stuff, but we don't know what happened before that. And romanticizing something else, especially contrarian thoughts, is something that makes you look smart. It makes people look at you and go, oh, wait, I didn't know that. Why would you think that? And then you bring up a bunch of arbitrary things like letters that certain kings wrote or something that somebody said in one language wouldn't make sense in a certain area, but that it would make sense in a different area. And people just think that that's true. I'm going to turn on my light. It's getting a little dark in here. I'm going to turn on my light. Give me like 2 seconds.
Yeah, it still looks good though. But yeah, you can turn it on.
I'm nothing if not like an opportunist. And I'm going to take this opportunity to say that the people that do take the shortcut for data are part of the Bob and Row 6 collection. So that's something I will say 100% is that, oh, let me take that off. I don't want to cover Shaun's mic or camera rather. But the Bob and Row 6 collection has 6 seats of designs, and they are a shirt, a hoodie, and an iPhone case. Because F the other phones, right? And basically they are each design highlights another person who should be in the audience, right? Like when it comes to a conversation about round earth and flat earth, everybody on that podcast that we saw, and maybe with the exception of Professor Dave, should sit this one out. Like you don't have the chops for it. And that's what this collection is basically for. It's to highlight specifically the people who are on stage should not be on stage. Like they have no reason to be there, but they're on there anyway. So grab your part of that collection today.
But
I don't know what the Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say it definitely makes sense. The idea, the difference between the distrust that Black people would have and the distrust that white people would have in that I mean, we've been lied to about so many things for the purpose of making white people look good. Right. So, Abraham Lincoln, he loved the slaves. He just
Oh
wanted
my
to
God.
just, stuff like that. So then when you say something else, like, they landed on the moon, you're like, just trying to make white people look good.
That part.
Like there's a reason
part.
we
That
distrust
part.
white people. Why don't you trust yourselves? Like, that's weird. Yeah.
I think I feel like I do the segues into it. Jeff, you should probably in this podcast with the song Whitey's on the Moon. But yeah, no, absolutely. I don't know necessarily what the solution would be, because I do know that like Black people, we've been lied to so much that we romanticize certain things and we'll start to believe in contrarian thoughts, because that's why most niggas believe the earth is flat. They haven't done, like Jeff said, they haven't done any of the work. They haven't looked at any of the models. They don't understand like physics or gravity or anything else. This nigga said there's density and there's buoyancy, whilst talking about gravity not being valid. Like, that's insane. He hasn't done any of the work. He hasn't done any of that. He just believes that niggas have been lied to for a long time. And this is something that is going against the mainstream narrative. It's the counterculture, what they call it a lot of the times. And so that's probably what I should believe in, because the things that aren't counterculture are probably something that white people want me to believe. And that's where a lot of Black people are with conspiracy theories. And then, they obviously, the Jews, that comes in at certain points in time. But like the whole point is that like white people are lying to me. So in order to get away from white people lying to me, regardless of how much it doesn't make any sense, I'm going to believe the opposite of what it is the mainstream thought process is. And I don't necessarily know. Well, I would say that's not true. We're not on TikTok, so I'm just going to say this. I do think that the solution is a combination of things. I think the solution is like one, education, because when niggas got education, like oftentimes you realize you don't need conspiracy theories to prove racism. You don't need conspiracy theories to prove that Black people are excellent. You don't need conspiracy theories to know that like what white people are telling us, or like the mainstream thought process is actually something that that we've already combated. Like most of the stuff that we're talking about, like when it comes to people saying things about DEI, affirmative action, anti-discrimination policies, wokeness, whatever it is that they want to call it or whatever, that is in spite of the mainstream thought process. These things are counterculture. These things are against the norm, because we live in a white supremacist dominated society. We live in a patriarchal dominated society. And talking about women's liberation is extremely contrarian to the mainstream thing. They just don't want to believe that, because it seems like so many people know about it now that if they say it, they'll just be falling in line. So they think that that is the new mainstream thing. But I think the biggest thing is the knowledge. And I think the second thing is that we need to stop being so fucking nice. Some of us are so fucking nice. Like, we tolerate so much when we really should just be out here whooping niggas' asses. Like without prejudice, like just going out there and whooping niggas' asses. Like, as soon as you say some shit, like, see me with the hands, nigga. Like that part. Like, oh, you think trans women ain't women? See me with the hands. Like, and I really think a lot of this shit would just stop, because niggas just not used to getting their ass beat no more. Like we're out here and niggas is used to being like, oh, let me hear what he has to say and let me hear what she has to say. And like 4chan created this culture that leaked out into other platforms. I used to be on 4chan. And what it was it's that like you can't tell a person whether or not they're being serious. And you also cannot tell a person whether or not they believe a person is being serious. And that means something when it comes to like the the dialectic that you will have, like especially when things clash. Because when people say, like, if me and Solid were arguing on something, and Jeff was like, "I think Solid's right." Right? Like, let's say it's something totally and completely subjective. I think LeBron's the GOAT. He thinks Michael Jordan's the GOAT. And Jeff goes, "I think Solid is right." I can't tell. I can't, fair enough. I can't tell Jeff he doesn't actually believe Solid. And so what the thought process now is that like, oh, well, if you believe Solid, then you're on Jeff's team. And I like Jeff more than I like Shaun. So now I believe Michael Jordan is the GOAT. And that brings forward like this thought process of like, okay, well, now I need to follow this person and listen to what it is that they say versus these people and what it is that they say because I like this person. Excuse me. I like this person more rather than it being just like, we don't entertain dumb shit. I'm going to kick your ass now. I don't know if this makes sense, but it's like putting two things. Jeff talks about this. If you put two people who have opposing views and you just get them to like argue it out on national television, people think that those two views have validity, have the same validity. And so if you entertain that shit, then the person who comes who's watching the show because they like Solid is just like, oh, well, Shaun and everyone who says things like Shaun are wrong because I like Solid. And anyone who Solid agrees with, I agree with because I like Solid more so than I like Shaun. And the people who like me are doing the same thing. And it's not about the information. It's about who you like and who you want to believe. And I think that if niggas just started getting their ass beat, it would be a totally different story. Because like if you saw a nigga say some shit, like imagine that shit. Imagine if it
show
was
me a model of a ball. Wait, what? Get off of
literally this. No, I'm so fucking
gonna
serious.
co-sign you because in a world where these ideas lead to harmful behavior, I'm no longer concerned about whether or not you agree with me. I'm only concerned about stopping the harmful behavior.
Thank you.
And rational ignorance is a thing, right? People will forego learning things if the perceived cost outweighs the perceived benefit.
Exactly this. I don't like trans people.
100%.
And if I learn this information, it will force me to like trans people. So I'm just going to reject it and follow the person who says that they don't like trans people because I don't want to like trans people. But if you got some hands thrown at you for saying that you don't like trans people, you would think about it a little more.
Outweighs the cost.
Exactly.
Yeah. Does anybody have any thoughts before we sign off? I think we got to a really good place, and that is if somebody's dumb, and I don't mean like dumb, you know, I mean if somebody doesn't know what they're talking about and pretends to, we should just like throw hands,
beat that nigga's ass, whoop
that's
that
what we should
nigga's ass. See that nigga outside the club, pull that nigga into the street. And beat that nigga to a fucking pulp. Take breaks. Take a mandated 15-minute break every 4.5 hours. You're whooping niggas' asses, and take a 30-minute break. Take a mandated 15-minute break every 2.5 hours. You're whooping a nigga's ass, and take a 30-minute break every 4 hours. You're whooping a nigga's ass. Start throwing hands. I'm not joking.
And remember to drink water.
That part.
Thank you for that solid end. Word. I think that's a good place to stop. Like this video, share this video. It's an important message. Subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you guys next time.